Hello, everybody. Welcome to my meticulous breakdown of what fights I think should be on UFC 332. It takes place in Salt Lake City, Utah. You can see I have some fighters that could be on the card. This is actually the title fight, by the way. Bryce Mitchell's getting a title shot. I thought he deserved it for, his contributions to the Ark Insanity podcast. We've also got a Book of Mormon here. I don't really. Oh yeah, I know why this is here. It's because Utah has a very high concentration of Mormons, and some Mormons in the place, they want to see people bleed. They want to see people fight. They want to see people get knocked out, which could happen in the first fight of the main card. Teba Gaultier versus Marvin Vettori. Gaultier is a hot prospect right now. He's coming off a second round knockout over Ozzy Diaz, who's a bit of a can. It's clear the UFC is trying to build this guy, so let's give him a gradual step up in competition. Someone who could maybe get some stuff going, but probably won't because he's washed. Marvin Vettori. Vettori has the best chin in the UFC. It's official. Chito Vera's been knocked down. Max Holloway's been knocked out. Marvin Vettori's still standing. But Teba Gaultier has that touch of death. We could see him just nuke out Marvin Vettori and, it'd be all she wrote. So I think this is a pretty, intriguing matchup. Some people want Teba Gaultier to fight, Israel Adesanya. They want him to fight someone like that. I think it's time we start pushing him by putting him on the main card. But, after Vettori, I think you could give him someone who's like a grappler first or whatever. I mean, Vettori supposedly is a grappler first, but he doesn't freaking use it. But, this is a pretty interesting fight, and it's a science experiment. Can Gaultier knock out the best chin in the UFC? I reckon that'd be a pretty nice feather in his cap. So we'll see if that happens. Our next fight on the main card is Aljamain Sterling versus Arnold Allen. I believe Sterling might be he's high in the featherweight division. So is Arnold Allen. I think this is a good fight to make for UFC 332 because the rumor is that UFC 333 is going to contain the featherweight title fight of Alexander Volkanovski versus Movsar Evloev. It's also rumored that UFC Noche is to be headlined by Yair Rodriguez and Jean Silva, two top featherweight contenders. So everyone's kind of on the same schedule if we book this fight for now. It is pretty interesting. Both these guys have a common opponent in Movsar Evloev. They both lost to him in 3-round decisions. Allen's fight was a bit more competitive than Sterling's. They were both competitive, but I think there's a case to be made for Allen winning his fight, whereas I think Sterling lost his fight. But regardless, I think Diego Lopez is probably moving up to lightweight, right? That's what he's been saying. And if he's not fighting Yair Rodriguez, I don't see him fighting anyone at featherweight. Likewise, I think Lerone Murphy, he's kind of the odd man out here. I think he should fight Kevin Vallejos. He lost his last fight in a way which makes me think he needs to jump down in competition. Meanwhile, both of these guys are coming off of wins. They fought on 2 cards pretty close to each other. So, they should be on the same schedule, the both of them. And there's also another reason that I think Aljamain should be on this card, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I like this fight. Sterling versus Allen. Speaking of Allen, Brendan Allen versus Dricus du Plessis in a 3-round featured fight. Give me that. Dricus du Plessis, he just beat Kamaru Usman in a 5-round fight. He's grown quite accustomed to those 5-round fights. I think it's time maybe we give him a 3-round fight. I mean, shit, way to mix it up. Brendan Allen, he's been talking a lot of smack. He thinks du Plessis is ducking him. Brendan Allen thinks a lot of things. I don't think he's going to have much on his mind when Du Plessis knocks him the fuck out. But we don't know if that's going to happen, right? On paper, this is a close fight. On paper, let's not talk about things on paper. But, because Du Plessis can't read and not anything else that's recently happened. But regardless, I like this fight. I think... nearly said something about the Utah crowd, but I think that they're going to gravitate towards these two guys. They'll be able to get around it the same way OKC was able to get around Du Plessis. Brendan Allen he'll be representing America for this fight. I think he just represents where he's going on that given evening, Canada, Brazil, America. But yeah, I think Du Plessis wins this fight pretty handily, but we'll see how he kind of fights the 3-round fight after he's got some kind of wrinkles in his game from being the champion. He's tightened up a lot of his technique. Will that go out the window? Will he let the fight get away from him? I don't know, but as a fighter, you need to adapt to whatever your circumstance is. So I think this is kind of a opportunity to test the championship mentality of Dricus Du Plessis. But moving on to the co-main event. This fight was originally booked for UFC 324. It is Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, current women's bantamweight champion versus the supposed GOAT of WMMA. Even though she beat tin cans, but she also beat the best women in the world. It's just that she had a size advantage over them anyway. Look, I don't know if there's like a lot of hype on this one. It's just kind of a matter of, we need to sweeten the deal, okay? We need to sweeten the deal for Utah City. 2 title fights. I don't know if they're what I would consider to be my favorite title fights in the sport, but they're the ones that I think are going to happen for this card. And when it gets announced, you'll be like, oh my god, this came out of nowhere. But it kind of was on your radar, but you just weren't expecting it to be now. Holy shit, does Amanda Nunes... I've only just noticed those tattoos. 250, 232, 200. I'm assuming those are times she won championship belts. I know, I'm a new gen. I'm not really a Amanda Nunes enjoyer, if you can tell. But, I've been around the block. I know what I'm talking about. I know these fighters. Okay? But yeah, I think this is a fight that should be booked now. Also, it helps that it's at bantamweight. Utah, Salt Lake City is at elevation. You don't want your champions getting gassed in the title fights, losing their cardio. So yeah, I think this kind of works into both of their favors. But anyway, Yan versus Dvalishvili 3. I don't think O'Malley should get the title shot. I think Dvalishvili, Merab put together enough of a resume while he was champ to warrant getting an instant title shot rematch. And Petr Yan, his injury recovery timeline, I think he can make it. I think he can make the October 3rd date. I don't know if he can 100%. Some kind of sketchy sources on Instagram are saying this fight's going to happen at this time. And I believe. I think it can happen. I kind of saw some people saying that, this fight being at altitude favors Merab. But Merab, he completely fucked his nose up. So, who knows? Who knows who this fight really favors? I think it favors Yan because, he won the more recent fight they had and he was supposedly injured the first time they fought. If you look back, he wasn't throwing the right hand, whatever. But yeah, this is a kind of eventuality. Everyone knows that this is the bantamweight title fight, except maybe Sean O'Malley. But even he's alright, to swallow his pride and say, okay, give Merab his title shot. This guy beat me twice. And then, yeah, I think the division really opens up after this one. Yan wins. You do the Sean O'Malley fight. Marab wins and Umar wins their fight, you can make that rematch. I think this is pretty win-win for everyone. But let's continue on what we're going to do now. We've got the main event here. We're going to go on to the first prelim, not the first early prelim, but the first middle prelim, and we'll work our way to the prelim headliner. Okay, we've got 5 fights more to discuss. So let's go into that. Hang on a second. Okay, no, what we're... Fuck. Okay, we can make this work. We're still flying half a ship. Rodriguez versus Holland 2. This is actually... We're doing it the other way around, okay? This is the prelim headliner, and we're going to work our way down the prelims. D-Rod just got knocked out in 30 seconds. He says he wants to fight Kevin Holland at UFC Noche. UFC Noche is maybe 40 days away. That's way too fast of a turnaround. I think at least wait till October. It wasn't a bad knockout. He got knocked down. He got hit with some stuff. It was like, what's going on? But he didn't get flatlined. And I think he wants to get his lick back against someone who he thinks that he can beat because he's beaten before. Kevin Holland. Will Kevin Holland come back in this rematch with a vengeance? ? I don't know. It was good the first time. Both guys are kind of on the heavier side of the weight classes, so maybe they will be affected by the altitude. And then, all of a sudden, the really sloppy fight they had the first time becomes a really sloppy rematch, and it's the fight of the night. I mean, shit. And worst case scenario, they just don't make it, and they feed both guys to contenders. I think Holland pulling out of that Jacoby Smith fight, that was a blessing in disguise. He was going to get slimed. Rodriguez, I don't know if he really stood a chance in that Medic fight, but now he's kind of, he's gotten back from the Tijuana prison. He's got his feet in the door. And I think, he can still win fights. I think this is a winnable fight for both guys. And yeah, book it. Next up, we've got a fight that's actually scheduled to be on the card. Mick Parkin versus Johnny Walker. It's Johnny Walker's heavyweight debut. I can't explain it, but this guy looks like King Julian. Do you see it? I think Johnny Walker and King Julian just have a lot of similarities. Both of these guys love to party. Mick Parkin, this guy's serious. Okay, he trains with Tom Aspinall. Lots of beef in that gym, as we know. These guys hate each other. He lost his decision to Marcin Tybura in his last fight. Before that, he was on a nice little streak. He's a technical kind of point fighting heavyweight. They try and get knockouts, but Mick Parkin's a bit more prone to a decision. Johnny Walker got a decision in his last fight. I feel like an odds maker would look at that and say, this fight's going to go the distance. Knowing that, someone's getting knocked out in the first round. If we want to talk about getting knocked out in the first round, Johnny Walker could be in a bit of shit here, okay? It's at altitude. I've mentioned that a fair bit. But it's going to be bad. It was bad for Alonzo Menefield and Julius Walker when they fought at altitude. It's going to be bad for these guys. If this fight leaves the first round, just expect, heavyweight blobfest. But, hey, it happens. And we got to be grateful. We got to be grateful for these heavyweight blobfests because they're badass fights. Moving on. Raoni Barcelos versus Bryce Mitchell. Now, Bryce Mitchell is scheduled to compete against Mikey Musumeci in late September, which is kind of like, dude, it's only a jiu-jitsu match. Why do you have it booked 2 months in advance? But anyway, I hope that Bryce Mitchell kind of has a premonition, has a dream that tells him to fight in front of the Utah crowd, because they're gonna love a country boy. All right, they're gonna love a good old country boy who knows how to catch a catfish with my bare hands. Okay? I think Bryce Mitchell's biggest potential matchup is the drill in his pants potentially, or it could be, his milk production. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Bryce Mitchell was grappling with a buddy, and white stuff started coming out of his shirt. This is true. He told it at a press conference, okay? White stuff starts coming out of his shirt as he starts to sweat. His first thought, I drank a lot of milk, brother. It's probably the milk coming out of my skin. No shit. Turns out he didn't wash his shirt through properly, and it was the suds from like cleaning his shirt. They were burning his skin. And yeah, he thought it was milk. But he did get an impressive submission in his last fight against Santiago Luna. Luna's a good prospect. Oh, whoops. And it was short notice for him. But Bryce Mitchell, he still hung in there. And he made it miserable for him. He took it. It was like he got the submission in the last 10 seconds. Bryce is a gamer. And so is Raoni Barcelos. He's been on a bit of a streak. But, it's been against guys who don't really grapple that well. Which is why I think we need Bryce Mitchell to get Unk out of here. Raoni Barcelos is not going to get a title, okay? He's too old. I like what he's done, but it's just, sometimes you need to bite the bullet and do what's best for the sport. I think Bryce Mitchell brings the name value to the bantamweight division. He gets Barcelos out of there, and all of a sudden, it's Bryce Mitchell versus Alexandre Topuria. It's Bryce Mitchell versus Peyton Talbot. That could be a fun fight, Mitchell's always talking about they're gaying out the jiu-jitsu. I'd like to see him go against Peyton Talbot. I wonder what he'd have to say about him. I think this is just, a really nice fight. I think that it should happen at some point, preferably in Utah. But this doesn't have to happen in Utah. I think it's a nice fight anywhere it happens. I hope Bryce wins his jiu-jitsu tournament against Mikey Musumeci. Improves his thesis about Brazilian jiu-jitsu in 2026. But otherwise, Oh yeah, also, a bantamweight fight, a men's bantamweight fight to have on the card is very important if someone in the main event pulls out. Because all of a sudden, Bryce Mitchell can be fighting for a title. And that's what we all want to see. Moving on, we've kind of got something similar. We've got a women's bantamweight fight between... She's number one contender in the meta rankings, I think. I don't know about the actual ones, but Jocelyn Edwards versus Bia Mesquita. Bia Mesquita is currently on a 3-fight submission streak in the UFC. Likewise, Edwards was previously on, I believe it was 3 or 4 straight finishes, which is in the women's bantamweight division. She got a decision in her last fight. But that's the equivalent of Chuck Liddell's knockout run in light heavyweight in women's bantamweight. She is, she is a kill or be killed fighter. But seriously, both of these girls have some very nasty finishes. It's a high-level fight. Bia Mesquita, it's kind of chill if she loses this one. And a lot of the top-ranked women's bantamweight contenders are very inactive. Like Juliana Pena, Raquel Pennington, Norma Dumont and Aileen Perez are booked to fight late September. So, again, kind of like the Aljo Allen fight, I think that, this is a good fight to happen, early October kind of thing. So the women's bantamweights are on the same kind of timeline. Just good matchmaking, just makes sense to me. And yeah, I think this fight probably ends in a finish, right? If you're a betting man, that's probably something you believe. I reckon it's probably in Edwards' favor. But Mesquita has been an entertaining fighter, and entertaining fighters need to be rewarded, especially in divisions that don't have a lot of depth. like women's bantamweight. There are only 26 women's bantamweights on the UFC roster. I think it might be 25 now that Irene Aldana retired. So it's in a bit of a dire state, and these are the two best prospects in that, or contenders, whatever, in that division. But yeah, moving on. Final fight that I've booked. I've got Alessandro Costa versus Bruno Silva. This is a badass fight. Both these guys, scrappy. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight, but it's about the size of the fight in the dog. I just watched The Odyssey today. It was really good. But, you know, yes, they're both Brazilian. Yes, it would make more sense on a Brazil card. But this is also kind of like some pretty decent name value, you know. Costa is ranked in one of the rankings. I think it's the AI one. And Silva was always like kind of ranked in the media rankings for no apparent reason. He recently fell out of them. He's like 5-6 in the UFC, but he's had a very strong strength of schedule, so it's hard to kind of blame him. You know, like if he was a middleweight fighting in the middleweight division, he'd have a positive record, right? He wouldn't be fighting the kind of names he's fighting. He lost to Edgar Chairez. He lost to Joshua Van. He lost to, you know, Manel Kape. I mean, Manel Kape and Joshua Van are like 1 and 2 in the division, you know? So I feel for Silva. I think Alessandro Costa, he's, you know, mini Diego Lopez. It's his time to shine. He's been getting it done. And I think if he gets a finish here, really kind of says what kind of fighter he is, you know. Bruno Silva is evidently a top guy, and, you know, Costa beats Silva. Okay, let's give him someone ranked 10 and up. But yeah, thank you for watching. I've got a this is gonna be the audience when Bryce Mitchell submits Raoni Barcelos. Thanks for watching. I'm a bit tired right now, so, you know, sorry if my commentary has not been up to par. I'm still trying to download DaVinci Resolve. It's actually sad. It's like, it goes from like 300 kilobits per second to 200 to 100 to 0. Then it hangs at 0 for a couple seconds, and then the download just fucking stops. But anyway, yeah, peace.